The Maltese Falcon is considered one of the greatest crime noir films and one of the best films ever made. Released in 1941, starring Humphrey, Bogart, and directed by John Huston, I've always been curious about it due to its acclaim. I picked it up on Blu-ray at Barnes & Noble during a Criterion sale. I know this isn't a Criterion, but they had it on sale for 30% off, and I went ahead and grabbed it. Movies from this era are something that I'm rarely in the mood for, so it sat on the shelf for quite a while until now. The film follows Sam Spade, played by Humphrey Bogart, who is a private eye in San Francisco when a woman comes to see him claiming she's trying to find her sister. After meeting with the woman, his partner and a guy named Thursby wind up dead. From there, mysterious armed men show up looking for the Maltese Falcon, a priceless artifact. While dealing with all of this, some of the police suspect Spade of killing his partner and Thursby, or at least has something to do with it. As the story unfolds, the mystery and guessing game didn't really work for me, as the film felt pretty predictable, and even when the film comes to the whodunit mystery wrap-up, it was really unsatisfying to say the least. I feel like I'm going to be treading water with this one, because I know what status this film carries, but I have to be honest, as I just couldn't get into this one at all. I constantly found myself distracted, wanting to look at my phone, fidget with something, and my mind kept wandering to different things as the film just did nothing for me personally. Like I said, the mystery was pretty predictable and the ending left me frustrated as it didn't feel like much of a payoff. There's something about movies from this time period where they're either a home run for me or I just don't care about them. It's hard for me to get into some of the performances from this era. There's a stereotype about these films when it comes to the acting where all the men deliver lines like this.
Now you're gonna listen to me? You're gonna listen to me good.
That was terrible!
Horrendous!
I'm offended!
I'm appalled!
And all the women put on the damsel in distress act, and that's every performance here. Humphrey Bogart was okay, but it wouldn't go into my list of greatest performances I've ever seen, and that pretty much sums up the rest of the cast as well. The pacing and films from this era are all a bit stiff, especially compared to today's standards, and that's the case here. I understand when looking at a film you almost always need to take into the account of the time period they're made in, and I try to as well. By stiff, I mean the way the film is shot and edited affects the pacing more than the story itself. A lot of the films from the era shoot the dialogue with a master, and then just a couple shot reverse shots as the characters spew exposition, and edited to just cut back and forth whenever someone is done talking. It's not presenting this exposition in an interesting way, which might be in part why I kept wandering. The story itself, its characters and mystery wasn't enough on its own to intrigue me. The cinematography is decent for the most part, but again it's very formulaic. I think of something like Psycho when I thought about writing this. I could understand why it had such an impact for its time. I'm taking that into consideration. This is from 1941, so it's very early on in film's history. But as someone who came along much later in the timeline and having seen more recent films taken themes and ideas of this film and have done it better, it just doesn't feel like it aged very well. The film really centers around the Maltese Falcon being a symbol of greed and the willingness to do anything for that folly. I can see the impact this film has had on cinema, and I understand why people would love this movie. I'd be willing to give it another chance in the future, but I just didn't personally connect with the film at all. There just wasn't anything here that was presented particularly interesting for me. If this is one of your favorite films and you're offended by me not liking it, don't be. I'm just some dumb guy on the internet, narcissistically sharing my opinions and experiences. I hope I was able to express why this film didn't land for me, enough to justify my rating of a 5 out of 10.